No Sequel for You is a short GameGuru game that I made recently for a game competition. These are run by members of the community, and it originally started off as the GameGuru Shit Game Contest, in which you had to make the worst GameGuru experience you possibly could. And I actually did enter the very first one with a game called Valley of the Dead, which I'll put a link to in the top right hand corner. But as time has gone on, the requirement for it to be a rubbish game has kind of fallen by the wayside, and people actually put in a lot of effort into these competitions now, which is probably the reason why I haven't entered one since then, because I just haven't had the time. But, you know, since I finished my documentary, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this one a go. Whatever the next theme is, I'm going to give it a go. So the theme for this competition, which is I think the 6th one they've done, was Filthy Rich. So anything that makes you feel like $1 million, basically. So it could be yachts, supercars, champagne, supermodels, anything that kind of, you know, allows you to live the high life. And that's actually quite a difficult theme, I think, to kind of base a game around. So, unsurprisingly, I went down a sort of a James Bond sort of spy kind of route, but with a bit of a twist. So, you play as Armando Rossi, who is a world-famous film actor. And in fact, if we go to the About page, I can give you a little bit of information on the level itself. So, the context is, as I say, you're this world-famous film actor. You're attending the premiere of your newest film, No Sequel for You, in Rome. But you've joined forces with the intelligence services. They've recruited you just 2 days ago because they've received a tip-off about a possible terrorist attack. So that's the flavour text to do with the level itself and what we're doing here. There is actually also some text on the other side, which is about what it took to make the game. I will say that the game is quite short, and the reason for that is because everything took 3 times as long as I expected it to. There's a lot of custom characters in here, and they took a long time to model and texture and then animate. I didn't make them from scratch, but well, we'll get into how I made them a bit later. But yeah, they just took ages, and there were lots of problems with them. The environment modeling took ages, had lots of problems with that too. So yeah, but even so, I was able to successfully submit to the competition on time. But I wouldn't have been able to without the help of members of the community. So a quick shout out to Lafette for modelling and animating 3 female characters that we'll see shortly. AmenMoses, my long-term collaborator, wrote some really cool scripts for this game and also troubleshooted the performance because I was really struggling with like 20 frames per second for the longest time, and he figured out why that was and has been able to increase the performance dramatically. Cybernescence has also been really busy adding new features to GameGuru Classic, and I think this level takes advantage of just one of those new features, but it's still cool to see, and it's a new thing that I've not seen before in a GameGuru game, so good to kind of show that off. And 42 Pixels actually helped create the menu art for this game by using an AI generator, used Midjourney to create the menu art, but I think it looks pretty convincing considering, you know, this is all from a text prompt. So let's jump in. As I say, the level was kind of rushed, and in the beginning, you know, I had all these grand plans about doing a big game set at a theatre, at this kind of glitzy sort of gala premiere, and there would be this kind of tense cat and mouse game between you and this suspect, and you'd be kind of following them around the cinema as the film played, but not really able to kind of take a shot or anything, you know, because there's all those people there. Now, of course, that was just way too ambitious for the, 5 weeks I had to design this. So it's a lot smaller than expected. And in fact, I didn't even finish like the outdoor bits of the level. So it's very much thrown together. But you can see how far I got. So here we are in Rome. And yeah, so it's evening time. I like this skybox. I don't think I've used this one for a game before. But yeah, and then you can see I completely just was like dropping buildings down just to sort of fill in the street a little bit. Didn't even bother doing the road, or didn't even bother changing the material index on this for tarmac, so it sounds like grass. And there should have been a limo here, and there, you know, it's a glitzy film premiere, so there should have been crowds everywhere. But as we'll see in a second, having animated characters in GameGuru, or that many animated characters, is quite a challenge. So we've got a nice little red carpet to walk up here, and I went to the trouble of modelling these. These are called stanchions. I had no idea these things had actual names, but yeah. So one of those red rope things that you see at, you know, airports and various events. It's called a stanchion, and I went to the trouble of making it LOD as well. So if I keep backing up, you'll see a LOD mesh pops in, which helps with performance because, as you can imagine, all these like cylinders and spheres and things are quite intensive. in terms of quite a high poly count, and there's a lot of them as well because it's quite a long red carpet and it curls around like this. These are all painstakingly placed by hand to follow the line of the carpet, which is a single piece actually. I modelled this as a single piece. So if we just progress up the red carpet, we will come to our first kind of point of interest, which are these photographers. Now, I didn't model these have come from Sketchfab. It's a free model you can download, and yeah, these are actually really low poly photographers that were modelled for a rally game, and the creator decided to put them online, and there was a lot of marshals and other sort of staff for the sort of rally stage, and I took all those out and just used the photographers and kind of mixed and matched them a little bit and made a little sort of crowd of them. And the flashes that are going off are little elements from my Volumetrics Light Rays pack, which are all running a script that kind of, I think it shows them for 50 milliseconds and then hides them for a random amount of time. And I think there's like a random number generator that sort of decides whether or not it's going to show or not. And the same with the lights as well. So the lights aren't synced up with the flashes, but no one will ever know really. But yeah, these are all dynamic spotlights that are just slightly pointed at the red carpet, and they're kind of triggered to sort of randomly go on and off. And the sound effect is just something I think I picked up on freesound.com. So let's head into the Pantheon Theatre, or Pantheon Teatro, and let's take a look at what we find.
Fashionably late, as always. We don't have much time. Go and get yourself a drink. I've also left something behind the bar for you.
So there's a couple of things to note here immediately. The first is how many animated characters we've got in a scene at once. And this is not something you typically see in a GameGuru game, and I was really keen on kind of creating a sort of a party. And this is about as far as I could push it really. It doesn't really look that busy considering the size of the space, but I was really struggling both with collision issues but also with just frame rate. So I think my system can probably run this at about 40 frames per second, and I don't have a good PC, so if you have a better PC you should be able to run this better than me, but at one stage this was running at about 20, so fortunately AmenMoses was able to kind of troubleshoot this, and it turns out to be a raycasting issue to do with the character AI. But I'm glad we fixed that. So these characters are, well, not the female ones. The female ones have come from Lafette, because there's a surprising lack of female characters in kind of nice evening dresses online for free. But the male characters and the waiters are ones I did myself, so I'll probably do a separate video about how I kind of created these models and where the actual base meshes came from. But yeah, basically I feel like there's a lot of tuxedo wearing sort of gents just kind of hanging around, so get a nice shot with about 3 of them in. So they all have the same body, so it's all the same texture. These are multi-textured objects, and there's one texture for the body, and then there's one texture that does the head and the hands. And yeah, basically I found this resource that has a lot of different characters, and I stole the heads off about 6 of them, and I put them all on the tuxedo and then exported the model with all 6 heads on, put that in Mixamo, rigged it, animated it, got it into frag motion, and then just used the different materials. So there's each different head is its own texture, which means it's its own material, so just use that to delete the heads at will in frag motion, and then I was able to export kind of 6 different variants very easily. So it meant I didn't have to kind of do 6 separate models and upload them each individually to Mixamo and have them all be slightly different. So it was a much more economical way of doing it, and also by being multi-textured, so for example the waiters, they all have the same texture. So the apart from the heads, they are all the same body texture, same apron texture, even the tray of champagne glasses is the same. So it was all about trying to get as much performance as possible, so I was trying to get them to share textures wherever I could. So as I say, only the hands and the heads are different for each character. One minor exception is the barman up here that we'll go and kind of say hello to. He is custom because he's the only one in a green waistcoat basically.
Buonasera signor Rossi, I am a huge fan. The lady in blue left your glasses with me for safekeeping. She said you wouldn't enjoy the show without them.
So as with all the voice actors in this game, that's an AI generated voice. It's just literally text to speech, which is getting really good these days. And I found an Italian sounding one and just tweaked the pronunciation of the line that I wanted him to say to sound a bit more English, because it was definitely putting a bit more of an Italian accent on it than I wanted. And he's a Cineguru character as well, so he just basically loops an idle animation until I approach, and then I step into a trigger zone about here, and he plays his little animation, plays his line, and I've actually added a little command to his actor script that allows him to activate whatever's in his if used field, and in this case it's this pair of glasses, which is a little model I made in about a day and a half, and we can actually put these on, so let's see what happens.
Okay, good. We've received credible intel about a possible terrorist attack scheduled to take place tonight during the film premiere. The guest list has all been vetted, but we need you to scope out the staff. Use these glasses to scan the waiters, and then meet me in the projection room where we'll check them against our database. Normally guests wouldn't be allowed up there, but a film star like you shouldn't have a problem getting past security.
So you can see we've got a little kind of vignette effect going on here to kind of signify the glasses that we're wearing. And also that little comms message that comes up in the top left corner, that's a script that's kind of borrowed from Extraction Point. It's just an image sequence, and whenever that woman is talking, it will just loop that image sequence, I think playing in one new frame every 30 milliseconds or something. I forget the time interval. But the real interesting part about these glasses is what you can do with them. So let's just go over to one of these waiters. Oh, he's run away from me. There we go, finally got him. Right, so that is how we are going to scan waiters. We go over to them and we look at them. It's a pretty simple mechanic, but it's quite effective. So the way this works, this is an AmenMoses script. We started with a pretty standard AI sort of waypointing script, and the first thing we did was I say we, it's all him really. He's doing all the really cool coding stuff. He added a pause, so whenever a character gets to a point on their waypointed path, they will pause for a random amount of time. And then there's also a check in there that if the player is looking at the face of the character, so it won't work if I'm looking at the back of their head, but if I'm looking at the face of them, it will sub in various sprites in order, along with some sound effects. And over the course of about 3 seconds, we will scan one of the waiters or waitresses. And when we do so, there's a little global variable that increases by 1, so that's the number of waiters scanned. So it's simple but quite effective, and I really wanted to do something with it that was kind of like, at least for the first part of the level, non-violent gameplay that was just kind of a bit sort of espionage, you know, proper spy stuff.
Good. Just a couple more.
So of course we have to remember which waiters we've scanned and which ones we haven't, and our ultimate goal actually is to kind of get out of the theatre and go up to the projection room like that woman told us to. So but if we try and get through there at the moment, there is actually a prompt here that tells us we have to scan more waiters first. This environment, by the way, was a complete nightmare. It's a lot less opulent than I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be really grandiose and sort of, very cool. But I ran out of time to make anything really decent. So I thought, I'll save some time. I'll make it in FPS Creator. And then I'll just weld the whole thing together using Auto Welder, which is a tool for kind of importing FPSC levels into GameGuru wholesale. And it didn't work. It crashed every time I tried to do it, and I ended up having to do it in sort of pieces. So the stairs and this little kind of gantry bit here, that's one piece, and this is a separate piece, this kind of bit of mezzanine here, and then I think the bar might even be its own separate piece, and the rest, the floor, the walls, the ceiling, that's all done in the Easy Building Editor, so GameGuru's own Easy Building Editor, which I imagine is not very efficient. And you get little problems like the texture not showing in the right place, like you can see that little white bit there, that shouldn't be there, and it's because I didn't want to import all the meshes and kind of build it piece by piece. I just wanted a quick and easy way to make it, but if I was going to make the level again from scratch, I'd do it very differently, and I think it would be a bit more dressed. And this Very nice chandelier model. There's another one from Sketchfab that was free, so that's credited too in the little text file that comes with this level. So, only one more to scan, and I can't remember which one we haven't scanned. I think we've scanned her. Maybe it's her. You can see sometimes they don't animate properly.
Okay, now meet me in the projection room upstairs.
So, we've scanned all 7 waiters slash waitresses, so we can now go and meet our contact upstairs. Just before we leave, a little side note about this level and some of the sound design going on. So the track that's looping in the background is by Jasper D'Acusta. He is a synthwave musician that I recently featured quite extensively in the Game Creators documentary. But this is a track I don't think I did feature in the documentary. It's actually probably one of my favourites of his. Just loops really nicely. It's called Nowhere, and there's actually a kind of a cool audio effect going on here to kind of make the audio sound a bit better. So if I just kind of let you listen to the audio for a second, you can kind of hear that it sounds a bit kind of like, I'd say a little bit muffled, you know, like it's like we're at a party. It's kind of just buried in the kind of the general sort of ambience of the room, the walla as we might call it. But as we get closer to the speakers, you can hear it gets a lot clearer. So hang on, let me just walk away and you can hear it goes from clear to muffled. And it's not, I mean, it is getting quieter as well, but it's also getting muffled. So the way I've done that basically is I've got 2 scripts that loop this sound infinitely, and they change the volume based on the distance to the player, but at a different rate. So the muffled version of the sound I think has like a much greater distance on it. So if you're 3,000 units away, you're going to hear the muffled version, and only the muffled version. But it's only when you get within about 700 units that the next version comes in, which so it's all done with equalization basically. So I've got 2 different audio clips. I've got one that's got like just the low end, so it sounds muffled, and then I've got one that's literally just the high end, so everything from kind of, I don't know, 5,000 hertz upwards or something. And because they're both looping infinitely and they play over the top of each other, together they sound like a full track. But if you were to just listen to the high end on its own, it would sound just kind of really tinny. And if you were to just listen to the low end on its own, it would just sound like it was in the next room somewhere, and it would just be very kind of muffled. So anyway, that was just a neat little trick that I came up with a couple of years ago that I've never actually been able to use properly in a GameGuru game, so I thought I'd give it a go here. And I think it's a great track to do it on as well. So let's go through this door, and we're back into more FPSC created bits and pieces here. As I say, these all had to be kind of exported in little chunks, and you can recognize some of the textures, I'm sure, if you've used FPS Creator. And in fact, the theatre itself relies on a lot of content from Metro Theatre, which is that amazing model pack that Bond 1 created back in about 2011, I think, which was very Bioshock inspired. Anyway, we're now in the projection room, so we're basically at the level's end.
You did good, but we haven't much time. Let me run the scans you got against our database.
So again, Monica here is a CineGuru actress. She just does her bit, walks over to the laptop, and you can see the screen changes on the laptop.
Quick, grab that gun. I assume you've been in enough action movies to know how to use it.
So the changing of the textures, this is new. This is almost brand new for GameGuru Classic. So a new feature added by Cybernessence is the ability to change out textures on the fly, and I really wanted to do something that took advantage of that. So here we've used it to change the laptop texture from kind of off to a sign that says uploading, to a screen that says suspect match. And I mean, what's actually written on the screen is all just rubbish, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this feature is used, because there's so much potential for it. And that pretty much is the end of the level. The win zone is triggered when you pick up the gun. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to see in this room. It's very bare. Honestly, this was like one of the last things I had time to do. So there's just 2 projectors, again from the Metro Theatre pack, and a cupboard basically. But yeah, so the idea is now you would go off and try and hunt the suspect, get down, and the game of cat and mouse would begin. Unfortunately, we never got that far because I ran out of time. So will I complete this level? I don't know. It's a tricky one. I really was tearing my hair up putting this one together, and it's actually made me kind of want to take a break from GameGuru altogether. So I'm kind of thinking I might give it a rest for a little bit and not do any more GameGuru for a little bit and kind of focus on some other stuff. But having said that, I do think there's some cool potential in there for some cool gameplay. I'd love to do a spy game in GameGuru, like a proper one. But the lack of performance is a real struggle. I mean, this is about as many characters as you can have on screen at once. Any more than that, and it's just crippling. So that does sort of limit your scope to be able to do kind of, I don't know, like towns or realistic metropolitan environments or things like that. So I'm not sure if I'll continue this game, but perhaps it's something I'll come back to, especially if the performance of Classic gets improved at some point. But yeah, so anyway, that was a playthrough of No Sequel for You. Hope you enjoyed it. You can play it yourself using the link down in the description. If you liked what you saw, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm always doing videos about GameGuru and FPS Creator and that sort of stuff. And as you can probably tell, my forte is filmmaking, so I also post videos about that too, and sometimes some of my short films on the odd occasion that I make them. So it's quite a varied channel. And yeah, I'm really grateful for your support. So thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye.